PA Charch.
That's a great setup, Bob.
Welcome back. The Brainerd Dispatch at one time described this man, Ron Stolski, as proactive and initiator, innovative, and as a leader. Nearly 6 centuries coaching high school football and nearly half a century at Brainerd High School. Those of you here at the coaches' clinics, can we get a witness and a raucous round of applause for coaching immortality, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ron Stolski. How you been?
I've been good, but let's do this.
Yeah.
Before we start, I want to, on behalf of our staff and the coaches of Minnesota, the keepers of the game, I want to thank KFAN for making this effort and attending this morning. How about a round of applause for that?
All right. Our honor to be here, for sure.
Well, in fairness, longtime friend, like nearly 30-year friend and co-worker of mine, Chad Abbott. He's worked with the St. Thomas Academy offense ever since I've known him. He was a former offensive lineman there. His brothers all went through the school. So the school's deeply rooted in his heart and his family's heart. And Chad made this suggestion last year. I had no idea what 9 to Noon was getting itself into. We loved it last year. So we're just honored to be here with you guys and be back. So thank you, Coach.
Yeah, we love it here, too. And for those of you listening and in the crowd, I want to report that we just set another all-time record. We're north of 1,700 registrations.
Wow.
Counting vendors and speakers, guys, we're going to be just under 2,000. Remember when we started this effort years ago, there were 235 people here. So thanks to you. Thanks very much to you because it just rolls and rolls and rolls.
It's the Minnesota Football Coaches Association, and Ron, just what's the purpose? What's the vision statement of the Minnesota Football Coaches Association?
It's easy. I'll read it to you.
Oh, you got it right here.
Yeah.
You got some crib notes in front of you.
Well, yeah, we are the professional organization of high school footballs representing Minnesota high school football for over 70 years. The association began in 1956 on the campus of the University of Minnesota. And we serve by providing educational opportunities. You're part of one right now.
Yeah.
Supporting and promoting diversity, recognizing and honoring achievement, which we have done throughout the clinic, and we will tomorrow night at our awards banquet. We will have a Hall of Fame banquet, honor and also honor the section and finally the Coach of the Year, and enhancing, improving, and protecting the game of football.
For the 1,700 people that are here at this event, what do they get out of it? Why do they come?
You got to ask them. We have speakers from Texas, high school speakers from Texas, Florida, Georgia. We have the Gopher football staff. And PJ Fleck will be speaking tomorrow night. You have to ask them what they'll get out of it, but we have a variety. We believe in a menu of opportunities. There is 55 sessions, Paul. 55 sessions.
That's a lot.
So that's the menu. In fact, some of the troops might just be coming back from a session now, or maybe grabbing a quick lunch, because we started yesterday afternoon at 4:00, and we rolled till 9:30, and we started this morning at 9, and we will roll till probably 10:30 tonight. And then we have a youth clinic tomorrow morning. So the coaches who are here have a menu to choose from. You want to learn about multiple sets from this and that, go to this session. We had Jake and Nickel be here from the Minnesota State High School League on officials and things to look for and rule changes and stuff. But primarily it's an X and O, but mostly it's a sharing. There's very few fraternities like the fraternity of football coaches.
Right.
Very few huddles like the huddle of football coaches. I learned that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Mind what?
Mind me carrying on here.
You take as long as you want, sir.
I was invited to speak in Dallas in 2006, and at the AFCA convention, and that's about About 12,000 coaches.
Wow.
The AFC is American Football Coaches Association.
Is that high school?
No, it is primarily made up of college.
Okay.
But they do have a high school arm, and several of us are members.
Okay.
I joined in 1969 when
All right.
when a great leader, Tom Mahoney, put his arm around me at a clinic, and he said, "Hey, kid, are you going to be a career coach?" I said, "I hope so." I was 30 something at the time, but whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he said, "Do two things: join the AFCA and join the MFCA."
All right. He knew of the MFCA.
Yes, Tom was one of the founders in '56. So I did both of those things. Well, in any event, I was pretty involved. And in 2000, whatever that works, but in 2006, I want to get to my point. I was invited to speak in Dallas, one of 3 high school coaches. And the rest is all college. You name a college coach. Nick Saban was there, his staff. You just name them, they're there. That's
Sure.
it. So I got myself ready, and I was up on the top floor there. And as I left the room, my wife, Sharon, said, "Are you ready to go?" I said, Yeah, I'm going to try to deliver. So I walked to the elevator, and as I walking through, there was a little coffee room, and there was a coach reading the paper. It was in the morning, and he looked up at me and he said, "Hello, Coach." And I looked at him and I said, "Hello, Coach." And I got to the elevator and I thought, is that ever interesting? So I went back to him. I said, "Isn't that interesting?" He looked up and he said, "What's that?" I said, "I don't know you, and you don't know me, but we know
their
each other.
coaches.
Yeah.
We know each other." And it turned out he was the head coach of San Diego State.
Yeah.
And I said, "Whatever." And as I went back to the elevator, I thought, I'm going to make a little adjustment in my message today. So I got downstairs, and I happened to follow 2 Texas coaches, and they were X and O guys. And I said, "Men, I'm not going to talk X and O today. I'm going to talk coaching, a journey, not a destination. So if you want to leave, go ahead.
Yeah.
I won't be offended." There was about 10, 1,100 guys. And,
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
well, these guys, that's a big. In any event, I started with. I had a remark, prepared this morning, and I forgot. But I said, yesterday when we checked in the hotel, in the lobbies, in the elevators, here's what we heard. "Hi, Coach. Coach, how you doing? Good to see you, Coach."
Yeah.
Hugs, greets. I said, I wonder if when the plumbers get together, hey, plumber, how's the wrench?
Yeah.
There's probably 1 or 2 other professions where you identify, perhaps medical, where you identify one another by a term that you just know. So we have a very special fraternity, a special huddle, and we're really proud of it.
You 2019, that's when you retired.
Yes.
From coaching and being an athletic director, everything, right?
Yeah.
And it was written, I believe, in the Brainerd Dispatch how it was such a difficult decision for you.
It was.
Okay, and I'm not surprised it was, because, I mean, if you last as long, or if you choose to last as long, and they choose to keep you around as long as they did, obviously it's deeply rooted within your heart, your mind, and everything about you. But after a run that at one place is greater than a half century, and overall it's greater than 6 decades, almost 7, what made it difficult at that time, as opposed to smelling the roses and recognizing it's time to relax?
I'm Polish and I don't know how to smell the roses.
Ron said that, not me. 2024, okay?
I still had the juice, frankly. I had a great coaching staff, and we were rolling. I mean, we were fine. We had been in U.S. Bank in 2017, I think it was. But I had 2. One, I had lost my devoted, wonderful friend and coach in 20. And he was very, very ill, and he still was ill at that time. But in any case, 2 of my closest assistants. Great coaches. One was the O-line coach, Chet Stevenson. The other was a linebacker coach. They approached me after the 2017 season. Said, "Coach, we've been together. I had coached Stevenson in Princeton and Parsons at Park Center. We've been together forever. And Stevenson said, Coach, I got to get a life. And I said, this is our life, Jack. And whatever, they had the reasons. His family, we weren't dissatisfied with anything. We were coaching our tail off. Anyway, I talked him into staying. And, but the next season they came and said, Coach, you do whatever you need to do. And if I can get a little personal here.
Sure, please.
I was 80 years old at the time.
Wow.
Feel great. I don't know how it all happens, but...
your hair's terrific for me.
Yeah, well. But, so it was very difficult because I thought we had a very good staff, and you never stay for the players. I mean, the players are the players. You love them no matter what. You don't leave for a team and stay for a team. It is your team.
Yeah.
It is your team. So it wasn't, well, we're going to be pretty good next year, or we're none of that. My father, who was a grain elevator worker and a bouncer in Northeast Minneapolis when I was growing up.
Nice.
And he said to me when I started coaching, I think it was at Princeton at the time, and he said, well, Ron, how's your team going to be? And I said, well, we'll be all right, but next year we're good. He slammed his Polish fist on the kitchen table where he always had visited.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, don't tell me about next year.
Yeah.
Tell me about today.
Right.
Because next year happens.
Yeah.
And it was a great lesson. So you coach for today. Those kids that come to you, they come with their heart in their hands. And they want today. They're not, well, gee, I'm going to go out because in 3 years we'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Nobody wants to hear that.
In any event. So we made the decision, and it was really tough. And the next fall, I went to practice just to watch off the side. And it happened to be a hot Tuesday day. And I just watched, and a few of the coaches came over and said hello and stuff. And I walked back to my pickup, which, by the way, is parked out there. It's 314,500 miles.
Attaboy.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Call it Big Red. And
wait, a little more detail on that? Ford, Chevy, Dodge?
GM. Chevy.
GM, all right,
Oh, yeah.
Chevy.
Yeah.
What are we talking? 2,500?
314. Oh, I don't. Are you talking?
What are you talking about?
Which model?
Oh,
Paul and I are staring at it.
Yeah, I don't care
I don't either.
about the model.
Hey, I care.
Continue
Trucks
the story.
You think our listeners care about trucks that can get 300,000 miles? I assure you.
Well, okay. Oil every 3,000.
All right,
Nope.
3,000.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so I walked back to the truck, and it happened to be a hot day. And I sat in there, and I was very tired. Very tired. And I knew.
Yeah.
And I sat there and cried.
Oh.
Because I knew.
Yeah.
It was indeed time. But they had to whip me out of it.
Hey, when in '62 when you began, was that Kensington?
Yes.
Okay, so then we're 45 at Brainerd BHS, and that's where you retired, and you were also the athletic director.
Yeah.
So, like in 1962. When you're starting a high school program, you're taking part in a high school football program, how popular was it for players to like come out and play football? And secondly, Ron Stolski's our guest, plays that you would run in the 60s that you just can't run now, for whatever the reason, they just have no chance. You know what I mean? Style of the game then compared to now. But first, Kensington in 62, what was that like?
Well, in 62, it's too long a story. I'll make it as short as I can. Sharon and I had just had our second daughter. I was graduated from college. I took another year because I changed majors. And I got a phone call from a friend and said 62. And so I drove up in a junker car, had nothing. And Kensington, Minnesota, by the way, renowned for the home of the rune stone. Supposedly it proved that the Vikings were here long before Columbus.
Yep, and they had the Super Bowl trophy with them, we promise. They just took it away and we can't find it.
So the town was 2 blocks long. So I get to the end of the town and I'm in my powder blue suit that I wore in junior high.
Yeah.
And I walk in, hey.
How did you fit into your junior high suit?
I was in shape then, Snooky.
You're still in shape.
No, but anyway, so the first man I see, or first person, I'm looking for the superintendent. His name was Mr. Rosted, and a man I see dressed in a nice suit and a fedora hat. I walked up to him and I said, Mr. Rosted, and he looked at me and said, hell no, he says. I'm Alfred Anderson. He says, I'm the janitor here. Now they're starting to call us maintenance men. He said, you want to see Todd? I said, I want to. Todd, he said, that's the superintendent. He's right down there. So I walked down the hall and I met a man with more patches in his pants than I had ever seen. A guy who was late May, a cotton shirt, cigarette in his mouth. Stolski, he says, you here for that football position? I said, I am. Well, this is young Stolski coming in my office. So as we walked into his office, I noted a extension cord bouncing on the floor from his waist. So I went into his little office. He had an old rocker, and he had a little pillow there, and he sat in it, and he plugged himself in, took a drag of his cigarette, and he said, hey, hemorrhoids, boy, that feels good.
Gee.
That was my first meeting.
Preparation Ron.
Now, to be fair, he was one of a fine man and leader.
Yeah.
But you asked him, I'm just going to finish fast.
Yeah.
He said, it was, for those of you who are in the Houston generation, it was 6 preps, all different classes. They had football, assistant basketball, head track. There was no track. We ran around the school. Homecoming, and the yearbook for $3,800.
Yeah.
Anyway, we walked
For $3,800.
Yeah, a year.
Yes.
And we walked across the gravel road, and all the way up, I went up Highway 55, and I'm looking at Glenwood and Belgrade, and they're all nice fields. And
yeah.
We start walking across the field, and Tug, who came to know us, said, I said to him, there was a grove of trees, so I was assuming the field was behind the grove. And he stops in the middle. Now it was late spring, early May, or late May. So the weeds are up almost to your, armpits. Well, he says, this is it. I said, this is what? I'm a kid from Minneapolis. He said, this is the football field, Stolski.
Wow.
I said, there are no goalposts. Oh, hell, he said, we haven't scored here in 5 years, Stolski.
Oh, wow.
What do you mean?
Haven't scored here in 5 years.
They've been shut out in 5 straight years?
Hey, that's what he said.
They didn't need
what?
Wait. I said,
come on.
Oh, jeez.
I said,
no football team can be so bad it got shut out in every game for 5 years.
Might have been a metaphor.
Stop. I said, that explains no scoreboard. I said, it doesn't look 100 yards long. Oh, hell, he says, we haven't measured. But he says, we caught it in the fall.
Jeez.
So, you speak about no football team. I'll end it here. 3 kids came out to our first practice.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
3. Paul Belgum, Ronnie Blair, and David Spilsek.
Jeez.
David had never played football, but he was a great jump shooter. We made him the quarterback.
Okay.
We called him Snow White. We ended up. My assistant was the shop teacher. Couldn't spell football, but he could make lamps.
Lapidary?
Yeah. And I said, well, Tom, we've got to get some more kids.
Well, yeah, 3's going to be a problem.
Remember, it's 8-man football.
Right. You're less than halfway there.
So we ended up with 13 kids, and we had 11 for our first game. We played Marietta.
How did you recruit the other?
Well, you just make a bunch of phone calls.
Yeah.
And we lost our first 3 games because Paul Belgum, who was a stallion, had pneumonia. Homecoming, Paul shows up. We beat Brandon 56-0.
Gee.
Wow.
Which can happen in, when you have a
Yeah.
and
Before they went Spurrier on it, they went Stolski on it.
So in any event, we played. We had 13 kids, but we had Larry Lannis at tackle. We had 296, and he had a helmet. But what to finish it? So we're out. Tug and I are dancing a jig in the middle of the field, and the kids are whatever, and I hear the sound of a 57 Chevy. You're so interested. And a couple of the farm boys had just put heavy farm rope on the goalposts that my brother and I had put up in the summer.
No, they're going to tear it down.
Yeah, we had black and white TV. And sure as and I said to Tug, they're tearing the goalpost. He says, we'll put some more up tomorrow. And in the middle of it all, Vern Johnson owned the bowling alley, 4 alleys, but he had 6 chairs at the counter for burgers. He went crazy. He says, burgers for everybody.
Wow.
So we marched down 2 blocks into Vern Johnson's bowling alley, all 13 of us in whatever crowd.
Wow.
And I bet you we just scratched the surface of stories that could be shared.
That's enough.
Here. Those are great.
We never lost another game.
What? You didn't lose another game?
No.
And
I stayed 1 more year and we didn't lose.
The clinics here hopefully are teaching coaches how to win more so than to lose. But thank you very much for stopping by.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having us.
God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron. Great to meet you.
I listen to you guys every morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ron Stolski, ladies and gentlemen, that is Minnesota high school football immortality. Into the penultimate for the Friday football feast after this.
Fan.
Greg Cosell is senior producer and analyst for NFL Films, part of the popular NFL Matchup ESPN show with Sal Paolantonio, and Darius Butler. And Greg, super well respected within the game of football, joins us now. Greg, it's Paul Allen. Thank you very much for your flexibility with the time. We do greatly appreciate it. Are things well?
Paul, I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. I got Charch here. We're at a Minnesota High School Football Coaches Association clinic, but we certainly want to chat about the players coming into the NFL draft. But specifically, when you and I were interacting earlier in the week, it's the quarterbacks. I just remember over the years chatting with you at the combine where you had put in some work, but conceded, hey, more work needs to be done the closer to the draft. And I just love how you lay out opinions founded on work, not other people's opinions. And whether you're right or wrong, you just seem to get to some unique angles with rookies. So thank you very much for helping us. And the first question would be, should Minnesota consider moving up to the top 4 to get one of the ballyhooed quarterbacks? I'm talking about Daniels, May, or McCarthy.
The quarterbacks, Paul, are such a fascinating discussion, and it's very hard to be truly right or wrong at this point because there's so many variables that are involved in determining and projecting and transitioning a quarterback to the league. I think everybody starts with traits, and there's different kinds of traits. As you know, there's physical traits. There's someone who's, let's say has a big arm. There's someone who's got a lot of athleticism. But a trait is also the ability to throw with great timing and to see things clearly. That's a hard thing to deal with because of the nature of offenses in college versus the NFL. And no one comes into the league as a finished product. I know some guys come in, like C.J. Stroud, came in and did really, really well. Even the people who loved him, he was my number 1 quarterback a year ago, but I think even the people that love a quarterback in a given draft would not say that one comes in as a finished product. So in terms of the Vikings, I can only tell you what the tape tells me. Right. And could I be right or wrong? I guess time will tell. Let's start with J.J. McCarthy, who I don't think, based on tape study, and that's all it is for me, tape study, I don't think his tape was particularly good. Now, having said that, I'm not interested the least bit as to whether, how many passes he threw, things like that. I'm just watching him play quarterback. I think that he was not an overly accurate passer, and I know people are going to say that he completed 72%. That's not really relevant to the kinds of throws that you're looking at and breaking down. So in college, you can always complete passes. The field is spread out based on the hash marks. There's always throws to complete in college football that can make guys, quote-unquote, high percentage throwers. He did not play with a particularly refined sense of timing. There were a lot of throws in which he hitched up 3 times. There's no pass game throw in which there's a 3-step hitch to make a throw. I work with 2 former quarterbacks on my matchup show, and when you see a quarterback that has a clean pocket a large percentage of the time, maybe playing behind the best offensive line in college football, and he throws his, a 17-yard dig that's wide open, that's not a tough throw to make. High school quarterbacks can make that throw. So I don't think his tape was really great. Now, he does have really good movement. He can make plays off script above the X's and O's. That's become far more important in this league. Having said everything I just said about McCarthy, would it surprise me if in 2 or 3 years he was a solid player? No, it wouldn't surprise me. And by the way, in Kevin O'Connell's system, we know where he's been prior to Minnesota. That system, I think, really allows a quarterback to play at the highest level possible within that quarterback's skill set. Could J.J. McCarthy come to Minnesota and be a good player? I think he could. But I don't think his tape is not top 5 first-round tape from Michigan. But that doesn't mean he won't be drafted there, and that doesn't mean he won't be a good player down the road.
Greg, Paul Charch, nice to talk to you again. Our paths have crossed at many combines, and you've always been very generous with your time there and then on the air here as well. I want to pivot to Michael Penix for a minute, if you wouldn't mind, because he's a player the Vikings don't have to move to go get. They can almost certainly get him at 11. They can probably get him at 23, or maybe even trade down and still get Michael Penix. When I look at Michael Penix's body of work, I see a lot of things that worry me. I want to hear more specifically what you do and don't like about Michael Penix as you.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because this gets down to how the value people ascribe to traits. What worries you about Michael Penix?
He rarely sets his feet to pass. You see a player who works out of shotgun. You see him hopping on his feet. Doesn't set a lot. That part worries me a little bit. Out of the pocket, his completion rate drops to just 45% for Michael Penix. That worries me a little bit. I see a first read quarterback. I don't see somebody who's going through the progressions. I see him willing to make bad throws to that first read rather than looking to a second and third read. So there were some things with Penix that concerned me. I'm very interested to see if that jives with what you've seen on his tape.
Well, I would disagree about the ability to work through progressions. I think he did do that. That was an NFL offense. Obviously, their offensive coordinator is now the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks.
Yep.
He was, to me, watching tape, the best intermediate and deep ball passer in the draft class. He made NFL throws. Again, now it comes down to what value you ascribe to different traits, and different people ascribe different values. Here are the things he did. He's a strong arm talent with relatively precise ball placement at all 3 levels. That's what he had. He was aggressive turning the ball loose. I think that's a necessity in this league. He had a willingness to throw to air. You have to be able to make those kinds of throws.
Yeah.
I would say that he did work through progressions, as I said. I thought he was pretty decisive in doing that. I thought he had a feel for defensive structures and coverages. He did not show any meaningful movement in college. Now, just because he ran a fast 40, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah,
that's not relevant to showing meaningful movement.
Yep.
So the question is, does he have that within him? A lot of people felt C.J. Stroud didn't have that within him, and he certainly did last year in the NFL. My sense is that the system will become really important to Michael Penix. I think he needs to be protected well. The one thing I thought he did well in college was he was very accountable to the system. He wanted the system to work. He stayed with the system, sometimes to the detriment. But do you view that as a positive or a negative? I would view that as a positive, even though sometimes the result could be negative. I'd rather have a quarterback play like that than abandon the system. So I think, to me, there's a lot to like about Penix, but I don't think no one's a slam dunk. Mm-hmm. No one's generational. No one's a slam dunk.
A couple more things on Penix I just want to ask you about. He operates almost entirely out of the shotgun. Do you have any concerns about shotgun-dependent quarterbacks?
Well, to some degree, because playing under center and turning your back to the defense is a learned trait.
Yeah.
So, guys who never really do that and then get to the NFL, particularly to a team that runs the football with the quarterback under center, you have to learn how to run play action. Now, again, I'm not a coach, so I can't sit here and say, well, that's going to take 2 weeks, that's going to take 6 months, that's going to take 2 years. I don't know the answer to that, but you have to learn that. Because when you never turn your back to the defense, and all of a sudden you do, and then you turn back around, and the defense is not where they were before you turned your back, and you know that time is moving, and when I say time is moving, we're talking like half a second kind of time, that changes your whole worldview real fast. So that becomes a learned trait.
And last thing on Penix, that I'm just curious on your opinion on this. Did Rome Odunze hide some of his deficiencies? Because Odunze's made some amazing catches on balls that were not perfectly placed. And I wonder if, to any degree, not like, say, Mike Evans hit Johnny Manziel, okay? But to any degree, do you think Odunze has covered up some of the deficiencies that Penix may have?
You mean because he made good throws to a guy that can make contested catches?
Well, how about if he turned contested throws into great catches? Yes.
So do you think Tyreek Hill made Patrick Mahomes and Tua better because he's fast and he can run by people?
Yes, he did.
Don't normally good receivers really help quarterbacks?
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know what, again, I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm just saying that it's rare to find really, really high-level quarterbacks with crappy receivers, isn't it?
Hey, Greg, let me slide this in here in deep stretch with Greg Cosell, at Greg Cosell via Twitter or the X Machine, senior producer and analyst for NFL Films, part of that popular NFL Matchup ESPN TV show. He does really, really good work. With the way Kevin O'Connell prefers to run offense, passing 61% of the time. 2 years ago, you got Jefferson. Now you have Addison, Hawkinson. Just from what you know with the middle zone concept of how Kevin likes to run it. Between Daniels, May, and McCarthy, just those three, which one do you feel best suits the way KOC runs offense?
Well, I think the nature of that offense, because there's a lot of, Sean McVay principles as well. I think it really helps quarterbacks because there's motion, there's a lot of reduced splits, there's stacks, there's bunches, there's things that help quarterbacks. So I think it helps any quarterback. If you're Drake May, to me, is the most fascinating quarterback in this draft, even more so than Caleb Williams, because Drake May, again, it depends what you're talking about with traits, but Drake May has really high-level traits. I'm talking about physical traits, okay? Obviously, there's some things that are concerning about Drake May, but I think Drake May would be the kind of quarterback that a coach would really like to coach because, he's 6'4", 225. He's a big dude. I would love to see someone like Drake May in a Kevin O'Connell offense. Now, I don't know if they feel that way. You guys may have way more information than I do about what Kevin thinks. But I would love to see Drake May in the context of that offense.
You're fantastic. Thank you very much for the flexibility and the time, and have a good weekend, all right?
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Greg Cosell with NFL Films.
So good.
Back to put a wrap on it after this.
A fan.
Final segment, 9 to noon, brought to you by Casey's. Stop into a Casey's, whether it's via Casey's Rewards, getting deals on food and fuel, or the Elite Pizza. Check out a Casey's today.
So at 8:30 this evening, it's Iowa and UConn.
Yeah,
Caitlin
can't wait.
Clark and Paige Beckers. That'll be cool. And then at I believe it's 9 o'clock. as we are in deep stretch of this Minnesota Timberwolves season. Something that the Wolf season this year has bitten me in a way that they really haven't in quite some time. And
Agree.
Third consecutive year to the playoffs. Edwards continues to mature. You're doing a lot without Karl Anthony Towns. Myriad talkers off that, but it's just the way the games have developed, really since the turn of the calendar. They've had things they've had to overcome. Generally, they've done it. There have been suspicious losses, but unlike the past, there have been corrections either during the game, but it was too late, or like the Orlando game, or the next game. Which pity the Toronto Raptors, man. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you watched any of that game.
I did. I watched most of that game. Well, they were missing 7 players.
Yeah, but nevertheless, still, the Wolves could have won that game by 70.
They did.
And you're watching the Toronto Raptors thinking about the WNBA draft, thinking, hey, Angel Reese at 7. I'm the Raptors. I try to trade into that spot to get Angel Reese, if only to sell tickets. But tonight's an interesting one, for those who are following it up to and through the postseason. Because Phoenix with Durant, Booker, and Beal, and Nurkic is a half, so they kind of got an MV3 and a half. But for their MV3, it's starting to come together a little bit. Phoenix is starting. Booker and Durant are both having massive games where it used to be, KD 44, 10, and 6. Oh, Booker fell off. Oh, Booker 44, 6, and 10. Oh, KD fell off. It's starting to. It's the ball sharing. They're starting to figure it out. And is tonight an all or nothing? No, it's not. But
it's so close.
It's a class test.
We talked about it a little bit when I did Dan Barreau's show on Tuesday. I don't want to be the 3 seed, and I don't want to hook the Pelicans. I want to be 1 or 2. I want to get a play-in team. I think these games have real meaning, Paul.
Yeah.
And the margin is just so slim.
Yeah.
The team's going first, second, and third.
I got to open my eyes to the Pelicans, man, because you're now the third person, including somebody with the squad, who has said to me, you might be shortchanging New Orleans a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, Valanciunas, BI's out, but he's coming back. McCollum's, you're right. Excellent take. Hopefully it's a good game tonight. Appreciate you, man.
Thank
you. Paul Charchi and the co-host of the Friday Football Feast, GuillotineLeague.com, and I'm Paul Allen, Nordo produced from KFAN. And to everybody here at the Minnesota High School Football Coaches Association Clinics, thanks for having us again. And enjoy the clinics, enjoy your weekends. Best of luck with your teams with the upcoming season. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
9 to noon.
If it's good news or money, leave a message.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.